أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب، والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to again send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be of the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated and loyal on the path of our Master after the Prophet, the commander of the faithful, the prince of the believers, the protector of the Prophet and his message, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah we would have nothing. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected brothers and sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is truly a blessing to be able to continue to live through the days and nights of Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak, to know that we have a continuous opportunity to try to better ourselves, to become better people, to pursue change. And Hajj Marwan just mentioned a few minutes ago that we just finished about 1 week of Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak, and we have about 3 more weeks, and those 3 more weeks will pass by very quickly, and we will get to the end of the month, and we will celebrate the Eid, and Shahr Ramadan al-Mubarak will be done. Now, living through these moments right now, we have the opportunity, we have the chance. It's at our hands to try to take advantage of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to try to instill some type of change that will improve our good habits and allow us to establish good habits and break some of the bad habits that we have. In the last few nights, we went over 5 practical steps that we can take to try to implement change. And we went through them, we discussed them, we mentioned examples, we mentioned the verses in the Holy Quran that inspired these different steps. We said that the steps were setting conditions for the self, where I would set conditions for myself, monitoring the self, auditing the self, disciplining the self, and inshallah tonight we will continue and pick up with the 6th step.
And the 6th step in this whole process of this pursuit of a better me really comes down to 2 things in the 6th step. It comes down to our niyyah, our intentions, and our ikhlas, our sincerity. And these 2 things go hand in hand. So anything that we decide to do is going to be associated with a certain intention. And you can think of basically every single thing that you do, whether it's something like your prayer. Before your prayer, in order for your prayer to be correct, you have to actually have an intention for that prayer. Or going anywhere that you go throughout the day. You pick up a book to read. You go to the mall. You go to work. You have the intention to a certain destination. So automatically with certain acts and behavior, you have an intention associated, right? The second thing that we're going to be covering with this intention is sincerity. Our ikhlas. Really when it comes down to it, being genuine people. Being real to ourselves and the people around us. And inshallah we're going to touch on that and really take it on like we've been doing every night, inshallah, trying to see practically what does that really mean to you and me. When we're saying ikhlas, we're saying sincerity, what does that really mean to you and me? And we're going to talk about things like, our relationships with our parents, our friends, the people that are close to us. What kind of integrity we have with one another. Are we really being sincere all the time? Or are we one way with certain people in their face, but as soon as they turn around, or as soon as we turn around, we're completely different people, right? So inshallah, we're going to jump into these things and see how important it is after those 5 steps that we've discussed in the past couple nights, how important it is, if you truly want it to be effective, what kind of intention you have. And seeing that throughout every action, every behavior, every conduct, that the intention that's associated will really change the entire outcome for you.
And that's a very important point, because when we look at this process that starts with the first integral step, which is seeking repentance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then setting conditions, mattering yourself and honoring yourselves, and so on and so forth. With all of those steps, what are we doing? We're taking certain actions. We have choices, we're making decisions, and we're doing certain things. And underlying all of these things has to be some type of intention. When I do something, when I set a certain condition for myself, or when I'm monitoring myself, or when I'm judging myself, all of these different actions, what is my intention behind them? Why am I doing that which I am doing? And that is the intention that we are going to talk about, because what gives value to the actions that we do is our intention. Without a sincere intention, our actions, our deeds become of no value, useless. And we'll start by defining what intention is. And a very simple definition is that intention is the will and determination to do something, regardless of whether the drive is materialistic or divine. What does that mean, Jalal?
So basically, by the way, this intention comes from the books of ethics that our scholars teach us, right? And when you're looking at this intention, they're telling you it's anything. Any will or determination to do anything. Whether this is coming, like I mentioned right from the beginning, a prayer that you're actually doing, and we know from our jurisprudence that in order for your prayer to be correct and accepted, you have to have an intention associated with it. So if it's in that category, or if it's anything else. So know that the intention is associated with everything that we do, right? Now, when it comes to our intentions, you're seeing these two words associated with it, determination and will. Beyond the sincerity, the determination and the will make up the definition of what an intention is. So in that determination and will, we see from the Holy Quran and from the tradition of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, we have prophets that came to their people. And because of what kind of individuals they were, through their conduct and through their intention, they became known as Ulul Azm. Now Sayyid, who are Ulul Azm? And what does this word Ulul Azm mean?
So before that, does anyone know how many prophets we have that we recognize in the religion of Islam? How many prophets?
Throw out a number, any number.
124,000. Ahsantum. According to the mainstream narrations that our scholars adopt. So we have 124,000 prophets, of course starting with Prophet Adam alayhi salam, ahsantum, and concluding with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Jalal referred to al-anbiya ulil azm, those of determination. And those prophets are Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And one of the reasons why they are referred to as ulil azm, those of determination, is because they dedicated their life and all of their energy and efforts to try to better people, to guide people, with the highest and greatest levels of will and determination, despite the fact that at every step that they took and in every action that they did, they always faced obstacles. People always tried to pave hurdles before them so that they could trip, so that they could fall, so that they could fail in their message. But because they relied on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were able to persist. Now, Jalal, on the concept of relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a very important concept that we need to highlight here. What are we referring to when we say to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we're doing something here in this life that we have control over?
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us regarding this reliance, right? This, what we have in Arabic as tawakkul, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran, in Surah Al Imran, verse 159. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Very short, brief verse. So if you are determined to do something, then have reliance on God. So if you intend to do anything, have your reliance be on God. Now when we take that back and we think, okay, so if I'm going to intend to do anything, I should have my reliance on God. This will change the whole way we look at everything we do. How? Imagine you had the intention to do something, but that something is wrong. That something is haram. Can I rely on God to do haram? Of course, you are unable to do anything without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because everything that we have in our ability is by the blessing of God, right? And through our free will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us our free will to choose and pick the things that we do. And we choose our destiny, right? We have that free will. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that system for us. But if we look at this verse and we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, if you are determined to do something, have reliance on God. Automatically, that gives us that check. If we want to do something and we know it's wrong, we know it's something we're not supposed to do, check yourself. Your reliance should be on God. Imagine you're doing something haram and you're saying, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm relying on you, let me do this. You're walking to a place that you shouldn't be walking to. You're going to a gathering you shouldn't be going to. You're listening to something you shouldn't be listening to, right? You're hearing a bunch of people talk about a friend or a family member or even a stranger, and you're sitting down in that gathering after iftar. Is there tawakkul in that? Is there reliance on God in that? That's one point. Second point, every single thing that we do, if we want to truly be successful in it and have that determination give us a fruitful outcome, reliance and connection to God is a must. Now, we might think, for example, of pursuing a degree or going to work, finding a job, or even, la samahullah, inshallah, it's very far from everyone here, when you're sick and you're ill in the hospital, right? And you need some type of treatment. That connection of relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and relying on yourself to actually do something to better your condition, how do they go hand in hand? Do I simply say, I'm going to take care of things by myself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need to do anything, right? Look at that option. Versus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of everything for me, I'm just going to sit here and watch things happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through our tawakkul on Him, our reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have a mindset where we're using the faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to do whatever is in our capability to better our condition, but with the intention and the acknowledgement that nothing can happen without Him. So in a nutshell, that's what we have when we're looking at the concept of tawakkul.
And Jalal referred to a few examples. For example, someone that's going to school. How many of us here are students? MashaAllah, that's probably the majority of us. That's wonderful, that's excellent. So a lot of us are students, right? Whether you're in middle school, high school, college, maybe even younger in elementary school. And when we go to school, what's one of the most important things that we do? We take tests, right? We're examined. We learn something for a certain period of time, and then the teacher or professor examine us. They give us a test to see our progress, what we learned and what we have benefited. Now when you're a student, and especially as you get a little bit older and the examinations become a little bit more difficult, more challenging, there's more at stake, it becomes a tough time, and it's something that students struggle with. So let's say you have an exam, you have a test. Can you just procrastinate, not study, not put in the time, and come the night before and say, I didn't do my part, I didn't study, I haven't been doing the homework, I haven't been following with the teacher, but you know what? I'll just make a prayer, I'll just supplicate, I'll rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and inshallah I'll pass and do well. Can we say that? No. We can't say that. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with His will and power, can do anything. Even if you didn't study for a second, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can still bless you to do well. But that's not the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to grow, to become better. And He gave us so many different capabilities and faculties to do so. And the way He wants us to become better and to achieve our potential is by doing our end, fulfilling our end of the bargain, putting our effort and energy to learn and grow and do and work. And in that, we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and to guide us to move along. So this is just very simple example where the student that doesn't study can't just say, I'm going to come and pray and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to bless me. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to tell you, study, work hard, do your work, and then you could rely on my blessings. You could rely on me guiding you through that. So this is just an example to illustrate that, Jalal, and there's many other examples that we could think of.
And really going off of that point, when you're looking at anything that you do, especially our accomplishments, especially the things that we're good in it, especially the things that we look at ourselves, yeah, I did well in that, right? You can look in the mirror, you wake up in the morning, and you wash your face, you look in the mirror, and you tell yourself, hey, good looking, right? How you doing? How are you? I'm proud of you. You're doing good today, right? Okay. You feel that confidence. Whether it be the things that you've done in your past, the things that you're looking forward to in your future, you see good for you, right? Remind yourself of where the root of that goodness comes from, right? Now you might think your default answer, of course, is going to be, who? Where's all your goodness coming from? Who? It's not a rhetorical question. I'm asking you. I can't hear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beautiful. Thank you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even taking a step before that, because everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, think to yourself, any blessing that I have, and we know directly from Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, the trees of rights that the Sayyid mentioned the other day. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam tells us regarding your father, right? He says that anything that you see, any blessing that you see in yourself that you're proud of, that you look at and you say, wow, that's cool, that's nice, that's awesome. Know that the root of that blessing upon you is your father. And that without him, you wouldn't be. Now look at that. Without him, you wouldn't be. Now, of course, the Imam on the whole discussion of the rights of your mother and your relationship with your mother is a whole different world. The Imam alayhi salam tells us that this is an individual who she protected you with all of her organs. Something virtually no one else can do. No one else can protect another individual with their organs, physically their organs, except the mother with her child. She went hungry as long as you ate. She went in the hot and the heat of the sun as long as you were in the shade. She made sure that you drank even when she went thirsty. She made sure that you slept and you were at rest as even if she went tired the whole night without sleeping. She did everything for you, all in the hope that maybe you belong to her. Now imagine that beauty. In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the blessings He's given us through our parents. So anytime you look at yourself and you say, Alhamdulillah, I have a lot going for me. I'm proud of myself. Know that that pride or that happiness that you have about yourself comes from your parents. Even if you put a lot of hard work forward, know that the blessing of that comes from your mother and your father. And you wouldn't have your mother and your father in your life. And if you don't have your mother and your father in your life, the time that you spent with them while they were alive, while you were blessed with that blessing comes from who? From who? Allah. Salah alhamdulillah.
So far a theme that has been coming up is this whole concept and idea of will. That one of the driving components for our intention to truly have an intention and make an intention and stick to your intention and work by your intention is to have that will, to have that determination. Now, the next natural question is, how do I strengthen my will? We always hear about will, and that with will you could do whatever you want to do. That if you want to aspire or strive for something, as long as you have that will, as long as you have that determination, you will be able to accomplish it. You will be able to achieve it. So then let's ask ourselves, how do we strengthen our will so that I can have a better intention, so that I can be able to commit to what will better me and be able to execute and do and improve my condition and my situation? And the first element that's useful for us, all of us, as we are trying to truly strengthen that will that we have, is to always keep in our mind and to keep before us the goal that we're aspiring to achieve. And to remember and to be aware of how great and grand that goal is. For example, how many of you here have participated in any type of track and field functions? So running, marathons? Good. Now if you ask any people that ran marathons, I did track and field when I was in middle school. I didn't do a marathon, but I did some long distances. And when you ask runners, especially ones that run marathons, 2-3 hours, and you tell them, have you ever been in a run, in a marathon, and especially towards the end, when you're exhausted, and you're weak, and you're tired, and you don't have any more nutrients in your body, and you feel like you're just tired, you're exhausted, you want to give up on yourself. You ask them, in those situations, have you ever been in situations where you just wanted to stop and just give up and you just can't take it anymore? And they might tell you, yeah, we have. But we don't stop. We don't break down. We continue. We move forward. Why? Because they can see the finish line right ahead of them. And when they see that finish line, it helps them and it inspires them to keep going, to move forward. Because they know at the end there's a goal. And if they just continue, they just push themselves a little bit further, that they will get to that goal. Now with our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jalal, we also have an everlasting goal before us that we can see and think about. And that goal is greater and grander than any marathon, any degree, any job, any career.
Now, when you're hearing about that goal that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you might automatically think that, oh, the goal that we have in our relationship with God is heaven, right? But after that, you think, my goal, be a good person, I reach heaven. Paradise. Awesome. Great. Now, Imam Ali alayhi salam gives us a beautiful narration. And he's speaking to one of his companions. And the companion is asking about how he worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imam says, I don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the worship of a slave, in fear of his punishment and hellfire. Neither do I worship him the worship of a merchant, in yearning and wanting his paradise. I worship him because he is worthy of worship. Now take a second to think about that. Now yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the reward of heaven and paradise in the afterlife, and good tidings in the afterlife if we're good people and we follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do in the betterment of ourselves. But at the same time, look at what the Imam is saying. He's not saying that either or are bad. You might worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you don't want to be punished. You don't want to see hellfire. I don't want to see hellfire. I'm sure you don't want to see hellfire. Nobody wants to see that. And I'm sure we all want to go to heaven, inshallah. I mean, who wouldn't? When you're looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's promises through His beautiful verses in the Quran of what kind of place that heaven is going to be. And of course, the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. But the Imam is telling us, look at your perspective, your determination, your will, your intention with this whole life. Shouldn't just be to get that one thing, but that you are worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He is worthy of your worship. He is worthy of being worshipped. Now, when we're looking at that determination, that will, and that goal, when the Sayyid's mentioning that, the track example, you see the finish line, you know you're going to finish. And you know that when you finish, you're going to have that feeling of success. I got it done. I made it through. I've accomplished something. Our scholars tell us that the more you acknowledge and see the beauty of the goal that you have, the more likely that you're going to accomplish it by the strengthening of your will. So the more you understand, the more knowledge you have about the actual goal that you have, the stronger your will is going to be in accomplishing that goal. Now, what does that mean? That means essentially we need to understand, we need to learn, we need to seek to understand the goals that we have in our lives. If you're just going to school because I'm just going to school because my parents made me, and you can be in this kind of mentality until you're in college and you're in your 20s, and I don't know, I'm just going to school because I don't have anything else to do. You're not gonna be a person who's strong-willed in actually accomplishing your goals. You're going to work because I just gotta pay some bills. I mean, so what else am I gonna do? If you don't have that outlook on your work, on your schooling, ultimately even the most important thing, your whole relationship with yourself, with your life, and ultimately with God, then the will that you're going to have in actually accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish is not going to be strong. Now, how do we go forward with the verses, with the narrations, with these teachings, Sayyid, and strengthen that will?
And I think that's a very important question, because then that carries us to the next part of the discussion, which is after talking about intention and defining what intention is and mentioning how important it is in order for someone to be successful to have a right intention, a positive intention that will motivate and inspire their work, the next part becomes, how do you have the pure intention? How do you purify your intention? How do you cleanse your intention in your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that you could become a better person, so that you could improve your condition, so that you could improve your state? Now, to keep all this in mind, when you really analyze it, it's not a very difficult formula. If you look at anyone that's successful, even in this world, materialistically, whether it's entrepreneurs, athletes, businessmen, professionals, professors, the ones that truly make it and are successful and go above and beyond are usually the ones that first and foremost define for themselves a very clear goal. They set for themselves a goal. So for example, you're a young, energetic, healthy athlete. You aspire to become a professional NBA player. You're at a very young age, you find that you have the athleticism, you have the skills, and you tell yourself that my goal is when I'm 18, when I'm 19, when I get older, I want to become a professional basketball player. I want to play in the NBA, and I want to work for that. So you set a goal, and it has to be something clear that you could visualize, that you could envision, that you could see yourself doing in the future. And then after you set that goal, you look at the intention that you have. Why are you doing that which you are setting for yourself? Why do you want to become a famous NBA player? Is it because of the money, the fame, the sense of accomplishment and satisfaction? Whatever it may be. So you set up a goal that's backed up and grounded in some type of intention. And then the third component becomes what? The will and the determination to act on your intention to achieve that goal. Now it's easier said than done. Yeah, it might sound like a very simple formula, but really that summarizes this whole process that we have to go through as we're trying to set for ourselves goals that will help us better ourselves, improve, and become better people that are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at the bottom of it is that pure intention, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in a verse in the Holy Quran, Jalal.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran, in Surah Al-Bayyinah, verse 5, it says, "And they were only commanded to worship Allah, sincere to Him in their religion, in dedication, and to establish prayers and offer charity. That is the upright religion." Now, when we look at this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, you are ordered to do something very simple. It's not complicated. You're ordered to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be a good person, to do what's right, and be sincere. Now, really on a practical level, when we're looking at the sincerity, it's not something that you just turn on a switch and suddenly, I'm sincere now. It just happens. Oh, I'm not sincere anymore. You turn off the lights, you turn on the lights. Sincerity, non-sincerity. I'm genuine, now I'm not genuine. It really takes, and this is something that we emphasized yesterday, that this whole thing isn't just like one day, the start of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, I decide I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to do away with all the things that I used to do that I shouldn't have done. And I'm going to be a better person automatically within the next couple days. All of this, brothers and sisters, it takes time. And more than anything, it's about your outlook on your entire life. And especially you as an individual. The way you look at yourself. Now when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in this verse that I've commanded you to do 1, 2, 3, to worship me, to be sincere in your worship and all of that, right? Is that going to come just by one day of, yes, I'm going to take on this verse and it's going to happen? Now possibly it might. But practically it requires effort. It requires your thinking. It requires you actively looking at the things around you, looking at yourself in that introspection and saying, what kind of person do I really want to be? And then in every action that we take moving forward, what do I have as in my intention behind this action? Sayyid's mentioning about becoming an NBA player, right? Being a big-time athlete that people love and people see, and you watch them on the tube and you see, man, that guy's cool. I want to be like that guy, right? Let's say that's your goal. Why do you want to be that person? The fame, the money? What is it? Why would you want to be that kind of person? Now you have your answer. I want to be that person because I want to be a person who everybody looks at and looks up to. Beautiful. Now, do you really want it? And how badly do you want it? You can look at all these different examples of materialism and when we're looking at these examples, a lot of times we say, okay, the job, the school, the money, the different things, because we see it, they're tangible. I can hold it. When I'm holding the Surface here, right, or the iPad, it's something I can hold in my hand, I see it, right? It's something that if I tell you, hey, I want you to read a book, I got it on my Surface, here, take a look at it. You can automatically take it and start taking a look at that book and reading it. But if I'm telling you, hey, I have a book at home, and it's a really cool book, I'd like you to read it, you can't start jumping into it right away. You can't take it right away. So when we're mentioning these examples, take it with you and then take it back to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I really want something so badly, like becoming a professional athlete, or becoming a big-time executive, or becoming the best, let's say, educator in the country, whatever it is, whatever goal you have, it could be regarding your profession or outside of your profession, think to yourself, how badly do you want it? And if you really want it, what kind of intention you have associated with it? If your intention is pure for it, that's truly what I want, that's truly what I'm going to get. Now imagine with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I truly want you, I'm truly going to come to you. How powerful is that? Now that's why this, for example, this step number 6, intention and sincerity is its own step. Now you might think to yourself, okay, intention, I just intended. I don't even have to say it, I just have to will it. But that will in itself requires us to constantly be in a state of thinking about what we're doing. How many times do we get distracted? I bet you, and it's been maybe 30 minutes so far. It's been 30 minutes so far. How many times did we think about what we're doing tonight? What we're having for iftar? Right? What we're doing tomorrow? Did I get all the work that I needed to get done this weekend? What else do I have left? In a span of 30 minutes, our attention probably went so many different places outside of what the presentation here is about, right? Naturally. Think to yourself, if I want to actually attain something, how much I have to refocus. And then look at the intention that I have and make sure, is my intention still intact? Now imagine with the small tasks that we have, how difficult it could be. With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how much more effort we have to place.
And this point is really important, dear brothers and sisters. This whole concept and idea of us being aware that to attain that pure intention, to have that strong will. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to have a strong will, I'm going to purify my intention, and you have it. It's something that we have to work for. And it's not going to be a cruise. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be hard. There are times when we really work at it and we struggle and we have a hard time and we think to ourselves and evaluate that we're not still there. We still have a long way to go. And that's fine. No one is telling us in this whole process to turn on the switch and then transform and change 360 degrees. And this is really important, because if we don't keep that in mind, then at times we might feel very overwhelmed. And when we're overwhelmed, then that will hinder our progress, that will hinder our motivation, that will hinder our advancement. So this is something important to keep in the back of your mind as we're talking about all of these different steps and all of these things that we need to effectively take in order to improve that change. Now, we'll conclude with a few more thoughts. When we talk about sincere intentions and that state of being in a situation where your intention is sincere, is pure, Imam Ali alayhi salam has a beautiful narration where he describes that person and what they're going through and the outcome of that intention that they have. He says, praise for the one who is sincere in his worshipping and doing dua to Allah, such that his heart is not distracted with what his eyes see, nor does he forget God's mention because of what his ears hear, nor does he have sadness and sorrow for what other people have that he doesn't have. So Imam Ali alayhi salam here is doing what? He's describing that person that is able to attain that level of sincerity. He says he's the person that's not distracted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with what he hears, with what he sees, with what he observes with other people having and the things that he doesn't have. He's someone that's focused on what? Himself, first and foremost, not other people. Because in this hadith, it's always your interaction with other people that you're distracted because of what you see, what you hear, what you observe other people having. You think first and foremost about yourself, your situation, your state. And then trying to direct your focus to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, building that connection, building that spirit, building that relationship. So it's a struggle, Jalal. It's not something that we could easily say we're going to do overnight and be able to achieve. And that's important as we're trying to assess and evaluate ourselves along the way to see, do we have any progress? Do we have any advancement? Anything else about sincere intention?
All of that really comes down to the perspective that you have regarding that intention, regarding that sincerity. Now, going off that hadith from Imam Ali alayhi salam, let's take a look at a narration from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us every truth has reality. Now think about this for a moment. Every truth has reality. And a servant does not achieve the reality of sincerity until he does not like to be complimented for the things which he does for the sake of God. Think about it. The Sayyid told us the hadith about Imam Ali alayhi salam. When you're looking at other individuals, right? You're looking at your sincerity, you're looking at other people, you're not moved by what you hear, by what you see when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now sometimes we might look at other people and say, man, like they have stuff that I wish I had. No. Could be very materialistic, could be character, could be personality, could be family. Somebody doesn't have siblings, they're all only child, and then they'll see a family with 10, 15 kids. Right? They say, man, I wish I had a brother or sister. Could be anything. That hadith goes into contentment, goes into you looking at what you have and being content with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. Now this narration goes and tells us a step further. When you have something good that maybe other people will look at and see, I wish I had that. Or when you have something good, someone compliments you for that. Right? There's a number of brothers that I personally learned a lot from. Whenever they did something outstanding, and people would come up to them and compliment them and say, man, you did an amazing job with that. Man, that project, wow, you blew everybody away with that. The ideas, the presentation, everything from A to Z. What does the person say? They say, yeah, that's me, you know. Or, on the other hand, reacting with humbleness and truly disliking that sense of being complimented because they know what they're doing is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They put their head down, not they put their head down like they're ashamed, put their head down like thank you, you know, just, they don't make a big deal out of it. The Prophet ﷺ is telling us the way you react regarding the things that you're doing and the intentions that you have, they're very significant. Now, and we'll end with this and go inshallah into the supplication. When we're looking at this, do we automatically say, oh well, you know, we shouldn't want to be known for good things so people don't compliment us? Is it bad to be complimented? No. And very practically, and I remember having this discussion with Sayyid, and something that all of us, we kind of like, we struggle with. When you're doing good things, ask yourself this question, is it bad to want to be known for good things? Is it bad? Someone might say, yeah, you shouldn't be wanting to be known for good things. You should only have your intention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that's it. You shouldn't want people to know you for good things. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, our fifth Imam, he's asked this question by one of his companions. And the companion comes up to him, he sits with the Imam, they're having a discussion. He sits with the Imam and he tells him, oh Imam, about people seeing us do good things. And we become known as good people. People know us for good things and we like it. Is it bad for a person to like the fact that I'm known as a good person? The Imam, right off the bat, he responds and he says, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no problem in that. As long as the intention that you had isn't for that. So you can be known to be a good person, and you can appreciate the fact that people know you to be a good person. Nobody wants to be known for bad things. The Imam is telling you, that's fine, people can know you for good things, that's great. But as long as your intention isn't to be, I want people to know me as so-and-so. That's your intention. And that's what you want. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us through so many different examples, that if your intention is for this dunya, this life, and the people here, we'll give it to you. But if your intention is for me and for the next life, I'll give you both. So striking that balance, brothers and sisters, that will be key in our going further in these steps in that pursuit of a better me.
And on that thought, today when we go home, let's reflect a little bit about the different things that we do. Whether it's in connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or our relationship here in this world with other people and with the people around us. And see what is our intention for everything that I do. My prayer, my relationship with my parents, my schooling, my work, me paying charity for the mosque. Why am I doing those different actions? What's my intention? Why am I doing it? What am I trying to get out of it? Where am I heading with this? Let's evaluate our intention, and then when we see that there are certain defects, certain flaws, that our intention is not solid, that the sincerity is still not there, let's work on it. Because when we work on it, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide us along the way. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We'll continue with a few verses from Dua al-Iftitah, which is one of the most important du'as in the holy month of Ramadan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma inna afwaka an dhanbi wa tajawuzaka an khati'ati. O Allah, as you pardon my sins and overlook my mistakes, وصفحك عن ظلمي وسترك على قبيح عملي. Take a lenient view of my disorderly conduct. Take a lenient view of my disorderly conduct
and please cover up my hideous actions.
وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي.
And treat my numerous offenses with forbearance, which I have committed mistakenly and willfully.
أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك الذي رزقتني من رحمتك.
All of that, O Allah, all of that tempted me to ask you for which I do not deserve from you. That is, you may grant me a part of your mercy.
وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك.
And you showed me part of your all-powerfulness and showed me signals of your response to me.
فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا.
So now I sit supplicating to you in security and beseeching you with entertainment, neither afraid nor fearful.
And we'll conclude with the remembrance of our Imam, Al-Imam Al-Hujjah alayhi salam, by standing and directing ourselves humbly towards the Qibla, towards the Imam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma kun li walika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. And the last of our words is a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.